All right. So, Marcus, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast, and it's great to have you on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Well, I mean, I think most people listening will have a good idea of who you are, but for those that maybe live under a rock in the CrossFit scene, do you just want to give a bit of an overview of who you are and what you do right now?
Yeah, I'm the owner and president of a company called Revival Strength. We are a global health and fitness coaching organization. We do individual coaching for clients remotely all over the world. We also offer a lot of online training material and education products through our website, revival-strength.com. And I am a father, husband, and fitness enthusiast myself.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So it's you've got definitely a lot of plates spinning there. You know, business owner, father, husband, that kind. It's a lot of roles to fill.
Yeah, definitely. And they're all things that I have welcomed into my life. Some more challenging than others.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And I think what we'll do then was let's give the listeners a bit of an overview of your past, because obviously you're in this position now, but not too long ago you were quite a high level competitor in the CrossFit Games,
Yeah.
but you were athletic before then as well. So do you just want to give a brief history of your athletic career, I guess?
Oh, yeah. Grew up playing kind of team sports, soccer, baseball mainly. Then got into the individual sport of golf. I played golf competitively when I was younger. Really loved that sport. Sort of took golf and soccer all the way through college competitively. And yeah, got introduced to, started fitness early on, lifting weights, going to the gym, trying to build my biceps, that kind of thing. Got a little more exposure to resistance training or strength training for sport application when I was in college. I always tried to stay fit outside of, playing soccer through the gym. Even when I was younger, did some sprint work, did some leg work, some lifting. But yeah, really kind of that evolved a lot in college. And then just sort of fell in love with training and fitness more than I was passionate about the sports I was playing. I just realized I didn't really care about playing soccer. I just wanted to go and stay in great shape. So I could do that in the gym or out on the track. And then from there, I really got more exposure to different fitness methodologies after college. Wide range of stuff. I was really consuming a lot of fitness material from basically the age of 17 to 22, 23. And then that was also when I found CrossFit, and that really opened up a 22 or 23. It really opened up a whole new world of strength conditioning to me. And then the people I met along the way and the coaches, and yeah, that was kind of everything came from there. Got into doing CrossFit personally as just like a something that challenged me. I was really interested in the concepts that were laid out by Greg Glassman in his original papers that he wrote, and just tried to consume as much as I could in that realm. And then sort of stumbled into competitive CrossFit just because I was kind of good relative to the people that I was training around at the box that I was a member at, that I ultimately ended up coaching at, and then just sort of fell into the rabbit hole of competitive CrossFit for about 7 years. And along the way was just sort of building up my reputation as an athlete and a coach simultaneously. That kind of brings us to today.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's probably a big leap from that. I started competing in CrossFit, and now here I am, however many years that was later, which we can obviously cover in more detail now. I think what you said there about you were in college and you were playing these sports, but you were wondering, well, actually, I'm not as interested in these sports anymore. I'm interested more in the art of lifting, as it were. And then CrossFit came along as this whole new strength and conditioning system, which had such a wide range of tasks. And so I guess for someone like you who'd done golf, soccer, quite a variety of sports growing up, that was what attracted you to it, was that huge variety of skills that you had to get good at to be competent at the sport. How did did you just fall into coaching because you were then a decent athlete and you were like, I want to spend more time in the gym? Or was it a case of, were you doing a lot of coaching through your time at college? Like, how did that transition happen for you?
I think I had kind of an interest and a calling to be a coach really from an earlier age. So the sequence of events was playing a lot of sports growing up and just feeling how good it felt to be athletic and active. And my time in the gym was also important to that. I was starting to experiment with diets, experiment with training protocols. People, even at like 15, 16 years old, like, hey, what training program are you on? You're getting jacked. Like, how can I do that? I liked being a beacon for information around health and fitness. Mm-hmm. Then through college, I really explored teaching as like something that I felt really called to do. I taught people as a coach, coach of some fitness, but mostly sports teams. And then a ton of teaching as in academics. So I was a personal tutor. I was a group tutor. I led lots of, class discussions for people in the health and science department because I was a biology major and I had a lot of pre-med requisite courses under my belt that I could teach really well to other students. I found a love for that. Mm. So I was going to pursue a career in healthcare somehow. That was my mission. So I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be maybe a doctor or a healthcare provider. I didn't know yet. That's a separate topic for another story, but I had a little journey through medical school, which, I didn't finish, but essentially it was like, I'm on a quest to find out how I'm going to deliver this sort of healthcare to people or coaching. Hmm. And then, so I really kind of found my way into fitness, health and fitness, or fitness, mainly because I was wanting to provide some service to people. Mm-hmm. And then the sport or the competitiveness, that kind of followed. You know? I was into CrossFit for personal reasons, like high level stuff. And I was really just like, how do I get in and coach people to do some squats, teach them to eat a little bit better, and then maybe see if I can get paid to do that. And the reason I chose CrossFit as kind of my route to go for that was because at the time that I was getting interested in it, there were hundreds, if not thousands of people that were just like knocking on the CrossFit gym doors to get in shape, which is different, right? It was like, okay, for the first time in my about 10-year gym experience, we're getting a massive flux of people that were like, I want to do squats and deadlifts and swing kettlebells. Like, I want to do what you guys are doing. Prior to that, people were not doing that. They were cardio, aerobics, spins, step class, shit that I didn't believe in, for like health and wellness long term. I was like, no, you gotta lift some weights and you gotta do some you gotta get strong, and then you gotta do some conditioning on top of that. And so now people were like, so I didn't know anything about CrossFit. I mean, I knew some. I was experimenting on myself. Yeah. And it wasn't like, oh, I believe in the gospel of CrossFit and I want everyone to do CrossFit. I was like, no, I just want to go over there because that's where all the fucking people are going, and I want to coach those people. Yeah. And I never took off that like inquisitive, questioning, need to understand better hat and lens that I looked at CrossFit through, which from the beginning, it was like, I'm learning. I'm going to teach a bunch of people this stuff and see what happens, what sticks. Okay, this is working. Oh, shit, that's not working anymore. Oh, man, people are getting hurt. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing with this. I got to figure out something different to do. And then my competitive journey in CrossFit was just because I was I was in love with doing the stuff. And I was like, well, I know this doesn't work for a lot of people, but I'm
Mhm.
not a lot of people. I'm this badass athlete. I'm different. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to figure it out. So these things didn't just like follow the same parallel journey. It was definitely two separate things that were going on. Becoming a coach, learning what the best thing for the people that I was, working with and that trusted me with their health and fitness. And
Mhm.
then how am I going to be the best that I can be, in this thing that's just interesting fuck to me. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm all those crazy cool stuff. And here I am swearing more than I typically do, but that was just gets me fired up thinking about how it all started.
Yeah, that's okay, man. I mean, you're on a British podcast, and I mean, I'm pretty sure if they know me, they know that I swear quite regularly as well. But as you said, when you're passionate about it, it can just happen, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a really good topic that you brought on there, actually, because you said I was competing in CrossFit because I loved it. I had such an interest in it, and that was where I was going with my own career, well, where you were going with your own career, sort of using your words. But you were saying how actually your journey as a coach was more of a case of I loved getting people into lifting and everyone was going there. So I thought this is a great way for me to spread the art of lifting to more people. But
Totally.
I found it quite interesting that you said there throughout that journey, you were still progressing as an athlete or you were still enjoying that journey as an athlete. But then you started to think, actually, for most people, CrossFit probably isn't the safest thing or the right way for them to see health and longevity. So what brought about that awareness for you, and how did that then cross paths? Because that must have been quite hard for you to kind of get over, like, oh well, I'm still doing CrossFit training, but you probably shouldn't. Like, how did that work?
It really just became about over time defining what, or helping people understand, or maybe creating my own definition of what CrossFit training meant, you know, which even to this day, it's still, it's misinterpreted, it's misunderstood, it's poorly defined. Yeah, I mean, I credit, huge credit due to Coach Glassman for coming up with a very, founding article and idea around the definition of fitness, the definition of CrossFit, constantly varied functional movement performed at high intensity, broad, broad time and modal domain, like increasing work capacity over that. But it's like, okay, at the end of the day, like, what's the actual stuff people do in a gym? And what is the effect that it's having on those people? What's the dose response? CrossFit, .com launched its first like workouts in like 99 or 2000, right?
Yeah, something around there.
Almost like 20 years, where probably the 98% of the workouts that have been performed in CrossFit have been performed in the last 10 years by like worldwide audience. So it's been the last decade has been the biggest. So we're finally getting into like the 10-year, data collection or observational study department.
Yeah.
And it takes time to learn what's good and what's not. I think at 10 years, CrossFit.com, the company, they're recognizing that there's some things that we maybe believed at the beginning that are like, maybe that's not so good, and as somebody who's a box owner and coaching CrossFit classes and, doing the traditional look at what prescription looks like, moving into some different prescriptions. I got to see a lot of what was working, what didn't work, what I don't feel confident and comfortable to coach people with now, and what I used to. So, gosh, I think I'm getting away from maybe your original question, but here, get me back on track. How can I re-steer this back to what you had originally had?
No. I mean, you're going off in a great line. It's more of that, as I said, as you were progressing as an athlete and you were learning more about training other people. How
Yeah,
are you then communicating that message to other people that, okay, I'm going to train at a very high volume and also train at very high intensities, but
yeah,
you were doing a periodized program for a competitive athlete, whereas
right.
that's going to be different to a general population person who just wants to look good, move well, be healthy for life.
Yeah. No, I think that was this language that I've been trying to develop and understand over the past 4 to 5 years, right? The
Mm.
first 5 years, I was just sort of like, I don't even know, like, everyone should be doing this in some, we're just scaling it back. Right. And
Yeah.
maybe they shouldn't do that. And now it's very clear, like, you professional athletes and people that are James Fitzgerald of OPEX Fitness helps me put this into context really well. His language has helped me understand my own personal experience through the whole thing. But being a professional athlete is not about health and longevity. Being a professional athlete is about winning. It's about getting points. It's about crushing your competition. It's about domination. Mm-hmm. And it's about doing it at all costs, right? I mean, just look at the massive amount of doping that's out there with substances and, compounds that are known to create health problems for people. Yet it's like, I don't give a shit. I'm fucking taking steroids because I want to win, right? That's what people think. So that's not to say, like, there are things outside of drug use within sport that are unhealthy. Just relentless volume and intensity within training, the type of diet that people need to keep up in order to maintain the output. Eating 4,500 calories a day, 600 grams of carbohydrates that are mostly simple sugars. These are not good longevity practices for people. That is overtaxing your digestive system. That is creating a whole host of potential, oxidative stress problems in your body. But people that want to play the game, they don't care, right? And the moment they start to care and they're like, oh man, this isn't quite feeling like it's healthy for me anymore, that's going to make it hard for them to be the best in their sport, and they're probably not going to be successful anymore. So it's like James made it clear. It's like, you've got to make a choice. Are you going the health and longevity route, or are you going the competitive sport route? Now, if you're going competitive sport and you still have values that fall into the health and wellness side of the spectrum, I think there's smarter ways to do it. And that's kind of how I approach being a high-level athlete within the sport of fitness. And I've tried in the past. But even at my best, when I was competing for the 2016 games, I was eating a very clean diet. I was supplementing with good things that were going to help my digestive system, help keep me, they were all ways of patching up a problem, which is you're doing massive amounts of volume intensity and you're eating a ton of sugar. And it's like, okay, well, I want to do it the best that I can. I want to patch up this problem with all these, but it was still not healthy. So
yeah.
That way, it's like, that's how we can communicate to clients. It's like, well, that's a sport and you're trying to, and then there's, live long and prosper. And people that resonate, I think, with the look good, move well concepts that we present in functional bodybuilding, within revival strength, it is about recognizing it's like, I want to look good. I want to live long. I want to feel, energetic. I still like to do some of the CrossFit stuff.
Yeah.
How can I adapt it or adjust it or give it a different look and feel so that it's more in alignment with me, being the best that I can be and not going down that path of sickness that comes with chasing elite performance. And what's crazy is that people, when they really that route, I give them a little taste of it in Awaken Training Series, which is one of my online programs. And they're like, oh, I'm feeling better. Oh, I'm actually, the intensity kind of climbed up a little bit towards the end. I don't feel as good. I'm like, yeah, because you're still doing stuff that's hard, and it's like, maybe if you really want to feel good, we should get into a whole different type of coaching, which is what Gen Pop people, I think, really actually need and want.
Right, yeah, and you've just brought round perfectly into my next point in question. I think what you just said there about it's having that communication with people who you work with, how CrossFit athletes who you see now, that is a sport and that is very, very different to what you should be doing for your own health and fitness. And it's like, if you want to play that game, it's like, hell, let's throw a regional day at you just as a simulation. Let's see how you do. Let's see how you stack up. And then you can say, look, these were your results. This is how crap you felt afterwards. And it's like, is this really the journey that you want to take? And at least then you can have that honest conversation with the person to say, one, are you even going to be on the cusp of good enough now? Because of the level that some of these guys are at, and the age that some people are now starting, like the teen division's 14 to 15, is it, at the games, or lower? So, you can, I mean, there's like an 18 or a 19-year-old British kid who can snatch over like 120 kilos now, cleans over 160. And you just think, as someone coming in their mid-20s or whatever, you're like, you actually haven't got a shot. So I think what you said there about having that clear discussion with them about these are different things is great. But what you just then pathed onto was, okay, so when I take people through Awaken training series or introduce them to functional bodybuilding, it's a really cool mixture of still doing movements that you've been introduced to in CrossFit, like the Olympic lifts, doing gymnastics, doing this varied training, but in a more structured, aerobic, like controlled manner. Just talk a little bit more about why you think that's then better for people in the long run, as opposed to this kind of, as you said there, like just constant, almost hard, but not really that hard work because they're doing it all the time.
Yeah. Well, the two, we look at maybe we go back to some of the founding, papers of CrossFit in the journal. Glassman presented this notion of like, there's three energy pathways or three metabolic pathways. You've got the creatine phosphate system, which is really aligned with resistance training. You've got the aerobic metabolic pathways or oxidative metabolism, which is like long duration stuff. And then you've got this middle one, which is like the anaerobic, lactic producing mid-range stuff, which he kind of was like, that's like where CrossFit sits, like those are like the couplets and the hard frans and that stuff. And, whether he meant to say we need to have a balance of all three over time, what we kind of ended up getting was like something that looks really a mishmash of all of it. That's just it's not delineated anymore. It's like, who knows where anything really goes. And that middle ground of like that high intensity, really push your threshold stuff was also really over time became sort of like the gold standard. Like, this is what's going to get people the results that they need.
Yeah.
In hindsight, or for some people, they had the knowledge and awareness to know, like, well, actually, no, like that's not true. Like for health and longevity, you want to do you want to do resistance training. You want to be strong and functional. Functional, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't use that word. You want to be strong relative to the tasks of your daily life.
Yeah, because that's functional as a definition, isn't it? It's what's your need.
Yeah, what are you going to be doing? And then you also want to be able to sustain and do, lots of sustainable work, which is aerobic work, which is that other kind of oxidative metabolism thing. Those two are really great because they allow for they don't disrupt the stress profile of a person as significantly as that middle kind of anaerobic, high intensity, lactic acid producing zone. That one has repercussions on the endocrine system, the digestive system, and which can lead to some downstream problems where somebody's health is compromised and they're not able to adapt in a positive way. And the things that they want, feeling energetic, losing body fat, being mentally sharp, they're at odds with that type of training. So, there I go again, kind of getting off, but redirect me back to the question.
No, it's cool because.
I think I'm there. Why have I gone towards that with the pro training series? So it's like, okay, those are the things that I recognize in my experience personally with coaching, also the education I've received from my mentors. That's what's going to create the best system for people. So, in historically, that was bodybuilding, resistance training. And it was like, go for a stroll, like a jog, or ride your bike, or do some just stationary or some type of simple cardio. Well, guess what? Like, we could still do that. And if I could get everyone excited about doing 2 to 3 days a week of bodybuilding and 2 to 3 days or more of just like going for walks and hiking, everyone would be really healthy, and they ate a good food profile. Like, we would fix a lot of people, but it's actually hard to get people excited to do that stuff.
Yeah.
They get bored. It's not sexy. It's it's all the problems with like fitness marketing that have told people that it needs to be sexy and it needs to be exciting and it needs to be fun. It's like, fuck, it doesn't have to be fun. You just need to do it.
Yeah.
And so then enter functional bodybuilding. Well, it's like, well, people thought CrossFit was fun and sexy. People think doing HIIT style training where they're doing burpees and jumping on a box and sprinting is fun and sexy. It's like, well, how do I make bodybuilding and aerobic training sexy? Oh, well, we take the stuff that people have done, we manipulate the prescription in a way that makes it feel like, whoa, I'm doing something that's kind of interesting. Like, I'm using functional movements and I'm doing some, I'm still getting a pump a little bit, because people love a pump.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You don't want to go and stare at a mirror and do bicep curls next to somebody who's like staring at their phone and taking selfies. They don't want to do that anymore. That's kind of out of practice and out of style. And they don't want to sit on the elliptical for 60 minutes because that bores them to tears. And they also associate that with lack of success, because that was done exclusively as the only training that people did for many years. They just did cardio with no resistance training. So they didn't see results, but it's like, so they're like, oh, that's not going to work for me. But it does work. It just needs to be complemented with some resistance training, which it wasn't for a lot of people for a lot of years. So
yeah,
now it's like, okay, well, how do we set up something that feels and kind of mimics steady state cardio? Well, we can do that with, pushing a sled, doing farmer's carries, doing planks, getting on a rower, getting off the rower, doing some wall sits, doing, a variety of different things in the gym, which we can call, functional bodybuilding conditioning style workout. But so it's just learning how to manipulate some of these things. And then, what is the right dose of that high intensity stuff, the threshold training, the anaerobic. It's different. It's really different for each person. It depends on what their lifestyle and their genetic makeup and their, day-to-day practices and nutrition practices look like. And so with Awaken Training Series or some of our like templated online programs, there'll be little hits of that in there. But on the big picture, it's like lots of weight training, bodybuilding, lots of aerobic work, and then a little bit of the middle ground stuff. And for some people, that's too much. And for others, they're like, I want more. And it's not because they need more. It's because they still think that's the best path. Yeah. But so again, that's where like online training programs and templated stuff is a great way to introduce people to some new concepts. But you're never going to like satisfy everyone's needs with one program.
No. But that's where one-to-one coaching comes in as a different bag, doesn't it? Because then you're able to talk to that person individually, find out what type of athlete they are through the program, through the testing, and then know what the dose response is going to be for them based on their function. As you said, like functional training means what do you need to do in your life? The functional needs of a 45-year-old father with 4 kids who just wants to play with his kids as he gets older is going to be different to a mid-20s who wants to maybe dabble in a couple of CrossFit competitions every now and then, but isn't bothered about the top end of the sport. Their function's different, even though their training could look similar in some ways. And I think, what you said there about our bodybuilding just got seen as boring. And it's like we had that era of the bodybuilders, didn't we, with the pumping iron era, where it was actually like the coolest thing to do, and that really died away, whereas people wanted something more fun, more sexy. And then you had that weird era where there was like maybe like aerobics classes or things like that, and no one really knew what to do. And CrossFit maybe took the middle ground where they were like, let's take lifting and throw it into a class scenario with a bit of conditioning and make it a bit more, like this bundled package of sexy new thing.
I mean, you know what's crazy is that, like, I think back to, like, CrossFit got a lot of its origins in, like, a lot of really what Glassman was, like, believed were, like, sound, groundbreaking fitness principles and concepts. Redefining power output. It's like, if put all that stuff aside, he just kind of stumbled into a great model for, like, crushing the fitness business game. Like, we'll just throw all the shit people that they like to do. We know the things that work. We'll put it into a fun community environment. We'll get people to circle up in a thing. We'll use PVC pipes. They'll just be like, I wish I had thought of that, you know, not I have this, like, notion that I'm going to redefine the fitness game. Like, still resistance training and aerobics and a little bit of intensity is good. And that's been good for years, you know? I mean, again, not to take anything away from Glassman, he introduced a concept that changed fitness forever, which is mixed modal training in a way that had never been seen before. And I'm so grateful that it happened. If it had not happened with him, it may not have happened for another several decades. It needed to take somebody who was, like, really a different thinker. And we know that he's a different thinker for sure. Listen to an interview with him. My gosh. Anyhow. Okay.
No, it's right. Yeah, it's right. Yeah, no, I mean, I was literally just going to say then, you know, as you said, he just packaged it very well, didn't he? And as you said, he brought about this, what you just termed there, mixed modal training. So people doing lifting and gymnastics and conditioning all at the same time. But I think what you talked about just there within functional bodybuilding and awakened training series, what you emphasize with people is taking the intensity out for most of those sessions. And just talk to me a little bit about why you think taking that intensity out is a good idea. Because obviously we talked about the 3 energy pathways. So obviously we don't just want to work on the middle shitty shit ground all the time. We need to push the other 2. But in particular, I guess, why would you want people to do mixed modal work that is aerobic for their health, for their fitness, you know, maybe injury reasons, that kind of thing?
Well, I think just as a blanket statement, most people that are looking for a health and fitness fix, and that's what they're looking for, they're looking to fix problems of too much stress in their life. Emotional, work, physical, nutritional, sleep, all the different types of stressors that might be in their life. So to bring somebody in who's got a stress problem and to give them more stress is a bad fucking idea. All right. So you got somebody who's like, you know, I've got financial problems. I've got tons of I'm like really overextended financially. I don't have good financial systems. And you, like, bring them in, you're like, okay, I'm going to coach you on how to do this. And the first thing I need you to do is I need you to invest in these 10 other things. Like, how is that a good idea? You know? And so that's what we're telling people who come in and they're 30 pounds overweight. They've got 30+% body fat. They eat a diet that is really low quality and not built around any sound practices. They sleep about 6 hours a night on a good night. They have a stressed out job, and you're like, welcome to my world. I am going to give you the most punishing, stressful workout I can muster and fix all of your other problems. And it's just like, I think about it now and I'm like, I did that with a lot of people, right? So I don't, like, you know, I'm beating this drum for a while now, and I certainly don't want people to think that I think exercise and training is easy and that should just be like this kind of, like, we're just kind of floating through, that's going to get us anywhere. But the difference between training at max or even close to threshold and training below threshold in this zone that's like, this is like hard work, but it's like you can repeat it every day and you can do it and it's not going to fuck up the rest of your day, or it's not going to make the health problems that you have already worse. That's what I'm trying to like show people, because it's this stuff over here. It's this other higher end stuff that is what has taken athletes like myself to the CrossFit Games. We do a ton of this. We do a good amount of this, and that's what propels us to highest levels of fitness. Mm-hmm. And what people miss is that to really build a great base of fitness, even for sport, you do most of the work in the submaximal zone. Yep. And that to really compete and to elevate to the peak of sport, you need to go into that threshold, that upper echelon. Mm-hmm. But if you're not competing in a sport, then you don't need to go there. It's not necessary to achieve what you want. It's also, not advised to stick to the super low end of the, work effort curve, because you won't see results. Like if you just go to the gym and you do a set of bicep curls with 20-pound dumbbells, 2 sets, and you sit on a recumbent bike and you pedal without your heart rate ever getting above like 85, that's not going to get you the results that you're looking for. So we're just trying to kind of guide people towards the middle. And that middle ground allows for more consistent training. It allows for people to feel the benefits of resistance and doing hard work. Within that, remember that, like, if I'm over here and I'm at like 80 to 85%, like, that's intense for people, but it's not doing 100% effort. And so we can totally manipulate intensity within that, and people can do pretty well. And that's really the main focus of what, our message is, and what I'm trying to show people through our training programs.
Yeah, brilliant. I think again, some great points there for the listeners, where you were talking about how just because you're saying we're doing resistance training and aerobic work, it doesn't mean it's easy, because some stress is necessary. But if you're constantly working in that anaerobic threshold, which CrossFit brings you, like a CrossFit class, I guess now, because as you said, CrossFit classes kind of got skewed more toward the let's always do shitty shit rather than doing some bodybuilding and some aerobic work, which Greg Glassman originally pathed out for CrossFit. Because if we look back to the old CrossFit HQ days, they were like, today's workout is run 10K and that was it. And another day was like, right, let's do a 1 rep max deadlift. We've kind of moved away from that in a CrossFit class perspective, more towards that middle zone. And I guess, as you said, you can work aerobically and work in a tough state, but then it's repeatable, and that's what makes it aerobic. So, I mean, I'm conscious of your time, and so we can just make this the last point. With people who are now training within CrossFit and they're doing classes, maybe they've done it for about, a year and a half now, maybe 2 years. So they've got past that like beginner gains section. For people that say, well, I don't want to move into training by myself, I love training in a group, I want to keep the kind of camaraderie, how could you recommend folks like that potentially auto-regulate their training within the box in order to still maximize their results?
Yeah, I think that I just wrote an article that we sent out to our email list this week. Actually, it was yesterday. And I think it was, "Is Intensity King?" Right? That was like the title. And I went on to explain sort of a way to sort of a language for thinking about effort and perceived effort, and how hard should something be, and how hard are you going, and what's the intent of the workout on the board. And I think creating a language for listeners around what it means to kind of stay in that good zone is important. And that it can look like doing a class WOD, but making a thoughtful selection on your weight that you're going to use, and for looking at like, okay, I could get this thing done in 10 minutes, but maybe I should take 13 to 14 minutes to do it, and in between my movements or the rounds, like, take a couple thoughtful deep breaths, and not be in a rush, and on a scale of 1 to 10, stay at around a 6 or 7 for the vast majority of the workout. Don't ever worry about getting to 10, but maybe you wrench it up to 8 by the end. You know, RX is 135, but I'm going to choose 95 today because I don't really need to do that. Or so anyhow, it was just about kind of creating a language around like what is that sweet spot where you can get a lot of work done and it's not going to fatigue the nervous system too much. It's not going to, you're not going to produce a lot of lactic acid, which, that's when like your glycolytic metabolism gets going too fast and you can't kind of take, your oxidative metabolism can't keep up. So then you get this like, this sort of that yucky feeling that people experience when they're doing hard stuff. That's something to try and avoid. And so you can go into a group class scenario and, for clients of ours that do individual coaching but still like to go dip their toe into a group class once or twice a month, it's like that's kind of how we tell them to approach it. I've got a client of mine who's been with me for years, and she just knows the language so much. She's like, look, I'm gonna go jump into this class because I want to go and hang out with my friend, but I'm just gonna cruise. I'm gonna take it easy. I'm gonna, I'm not gonna. And I'm like, cool. I know you're not gonna go and do something, ridiculous and stupid that would derail your training or derail kind of your goals right now. And so we can create that language for people. And I also have this like vision of like over time, the mixed modal fitness group class scenario, starting to elevate and upgrade prescriptions. Cause not everyone is going to go into an individual coaching scenario. We run a different type of business model here for our on-site training where everybody that comes in is on an individual program, but they work out in, groups essentially. There's a full coach, there's 10 people training, everyone's doing something unique. They're all getting individual kind of guidance through their own coaching plan to know like this is the right effort for me based upon my lifestyle and background. I think that's an amazing business model that I would love to see grow. And, it's OPEX Gym's business model that is, we still I don't have the 300 members banging on my door like I did the CrossFit gym because it's still new. It hasn't fully caught on yet. It's going to take time, and it may never get there because it's not really a mass market approach where group fitness is. So how do we still be like, well, we could upgrade group fitness, right? I have a vision of like, if I had some money to throw at a concept, I would make a functional bodybuilding gym, like a functional bodybuilding group class thing.
Yeah.
And like, I could write some pretty cool prescriptions that could take 20 people through a workout and be mindful of, equipment constraints. And, the place would be decked out with like the functional bodybuilding essentials. And we could get people getting like a good pump, building booties, feeling good, not maxing themselves out and leaving feeling like, man, I just got a great session in.
Yeah.
It's like F45 elevated, it's CrossFit kind of controlled. It's its own thing. And it's like FBB and it can be sexy, but if anyone's listening and they want to throw some money at the concept and go partners on it, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So if anyone wants me to,
I'm still committed to the individual coaching platform that we have, and then just educating people about how to upgrade their own facility use and programs, right? Like I want to coach coaches on how to do this stuff and create a good language for their clients, whether they're personal training clients or they have a group fitness gym where they want to upgrade how they deliver, the program.
Yeah, great. I think that's great. As you said, you now run a different model, which is more small. It's a small box gym where you're working on individual programming, but everyone's coming in at similar times and they can work out together, but separately. And as you said, with now group fitness instructors getting more knowledgeable, learning more, maybe doing things like the OPEX fitness course, and delving into more strength and conditioning research beyond just what they got introduced to with CrossFit. They can then say, hey, I'm going to run my group fitness classes with it's still going to be, technically CrossFit, but we're going to auto-regulate the intensity, vary up a little bit more. And I think, as you said, members who learn the language can do that for themselves too if they enjoy a bit of both. So that's really cool.
On my old box when I was, I owned a CrossFit gym for a number of years. Towards the latter half, it was like, hey guys, this is what I need you to be focused on today. The intention of this workout is to stay in like I do like, for you like understanding OPEX language, we would do some MAP 7 Saturdays. So it'd be like 10-minute AMRAP at 75% effort, rest minutes times 3. People loved it. And we were very clear. We chose simple movements. We didn't, have them doing any. I mean, that's a good prescription for a wide range of people, so long as they're not doing movements that are too complex. And we would say, it's like, okay, guys, like, I want you to start out kind of steady, slow, and just trying to, cruise through this, and you're going to have rest and this. And like they would understand what they were trying to do, versus writing up on the board AMRAP 10 minutes, times 3. And what do people do in the first 3 minutes? They are going ham. They're going crazy. And the last 27 minutes look like a total shit show. And it's just like, if they had just slowed down, it would have been a better situation. But that happens. Like I was visiting a box out in Columbus, Ohio, when I was out for the Rogue Invitational recently. Yeah. And I was just doing they had an open gym thing going on. They had a class with like 40 people. It was nuts. I was like, and they were like, oh yeah, this is regular for us. They had 700 members or something like that. I was like, Jesus. So they said like, they did the 3, 2, 1, go. They were doing some combination of Helen and, what's the one with the 20 box jumps, 20 wall balls, 400-meter run times 5? Kelly. Kelly. So it was like Helen Kelly deal. Right. And, I swear the first round, these 3 people just sprinted the 400, and they came back in. And I'm like, it's going to be a 25-minute workout. And with box jumps, and I'm like, and by round 2, just like the jumping mechanics were so sloppy. The wall balls, I was like, and it was just like, I was like, this is going to end very poorly for these few individuals. Yeah. But you see that all the time. And that's the language that's the language from the coach. That's the culture that is created in the gym, because people are told that the way they're going to succeed is by doing that. And so we can shift culture, we can shift language, we can give people other ways of approaching this stuff. I really believe that.
Definitely. And I think you've just made a great point that we actually didn't cover, whereas you talked about their jumping mechanics just went to shit and people just look terrible when they go ham. And we didn't talk about, it's maybe a conversation for another day of periodizing training. If you're going to go hard, let's do it for like 30 seconds and do it on a bike or burpees. Like that's anaerobic testing.
You want to do a hit, get on a bicycle.
Yeah. Like crush yourself on a bike, but don't do it with box jumps and toes to bar. Whereas if you're trying to teach people complex gymnastics, Olympic lifts, it's like, let's take the intensity out of this. Let's make sure you're actually moving well. And then you're going to get better movement patterns. You're actually going to get better motor control. You're going to look better, feel better. And then next week, you're actually going to remember how to snatch rather than, making it look awful again. So it's as you said, it's language and culture, isn't it? But Marcus, hey, we've been talking now for an hour. I know that you're a busy man, so thank you very much for coming on. Before
fun, and thanks for your questions. And
yeah, thanks. Before we call it a day, where can people find more about you, about Awaken Training Series, functional bodybuilding, those types of things?
Head on over to revival-strength.com. That's my website. Be sure to sign up for the we got like an offer on there for a sample training program. That's a sample of the Awaken Training Series that you can get. And then the added bonus is that you'll be on our email list, which we send out weekly free training content, education, programs, stuff like that. So a lot of stuff that we're just handing out to the audience because it's a great outlet for me to develop concepts and teach. And as I said at the beginning, it's like that's what got me into this whole thing was teaching people. So please go sign up for that, and got some goodies for you when you do.
Cool, great. And obviously they've got your own handle on Instagram as well to see someone putting it all into practice. But yeah, Marcus, thank you very much for coming on. And
my pleasure.
I'm sure we'll talk soon.
All right, brother.